I'm Julie Baumgardner, and this is the Marriage on the Daily podcast, the podcast designed to give you tools and encouragement to help you do married well on the daily. Because after all, it isn't the grand gestures that make or break your marriage. It's actually what you do or don't do on the daily that either builds a strong foundation or chips away at your core. You can do this, and I'm here to help. Welcome to the Marriage on the Daily podcast. I'm Julie Baumgardner, your host. I hope you are ready for some laughter today and some thoughts about the importance of laughter in your marriage and playfulness in your marriage. My friend Ted Cunningham is with us on this episode. He is the founding pastor of Woodland Hills Church in Branson, Missouri. He has been married to Amy for coming up on 30 years, which is super exciting. They have 2 adult children, their daughter who is married and their son who is getting ready to be married. So lots of excitement going on in your world. Ted is a comedian on the Date Night Comedy Tour, and he's also an author of a number of books, including Greater Joy Together, a 52-week marriage devotional, A Love That Laughs, From Fun Loving You. And I love that one because it talks about how to enjoy your marriage in the midst of the grind. So get ready because we're going to have some fun today. And I know I'm counting on you, Ted, to bring the laughter. And thank you so much for being with us.
Well, what an honor. I'm glad you got this started. Glad you started your podcast, and always a treat to be on these with you.
Well, thank you. I would love for us to kind of start out with you telling us, like, how did you get to this place where you knew you were funny and you were funny with your wife and it was a positive thing, not a sarcastic thing, but fun.
Yeah. So, my mentor was Dr. Gary Smalley, and Gary always used a lot of humor, but I don't think he would ever give himself the title comedian.
That's true.
He just brought me along on that. And I could tell a funny story. I could deliver a punchline, but it wasn't until I was at an event, probably it's going on 10 years now. I was at an event that they had me as the speaker and they hired a comedian, and the comedian bombed. Like, it didn't go funny. It did not go well at all. And I remember sitting by the pastor on the front row during this event, and he's just dying on the inside. And this comedian was committed. I mean, he wasn't backing down. He didn't really know the audience. It was one of those moments where know your audience. And so the pastor leans over to me before I got up and he said, "Would you please save this? You have got to save this event." And so I got up and I maybe laid it on a little thicker than I normally do. And the pastor came and said, "Thank you." And so I never went after the comedian title, but what happened was from that night on, churches started bringing me in. And I don't even remember the first church that did it, but I got to one church and on the poster, it said, Ted Cunningham, pastor, author, comedian. And I'm like, who told them they could put that on there? So, we all can tell humorous stories. Every pastor I know can tell a humorous story. Every marriage ministry leader I know can tell a humorous story. Comedy's really defined at like 3 to 5 laughs per minute, where you're able to do premise, punchline in rapid fire. And so, you have to be committed. That's the key to a good delivery of a punchline. And I enjoyed, and one of the reasons I took it on was, as a pastor, I deal with so much serious stuff all week in ministering to the needs of people, ministering in our community. Mm-hmm. And then I would go out and do marriage conferences, and it finally clicked with me. Gary wasn't a pastor, and he would write during the week and work during the week, but then he would go to a marriage conference, and that was his time to minister in the church. I would go to a marriage conference, 4 or 5 sessions, and be absolutely wiped out dealing with the real needs of people at those conferences. And then I had to come back and minister on Sunday and had nothing left. And this is when I started to learn the power of humor. people are still learning at a date night comedy event, but I would leave refreshed, because that's what humor does.
Right.
Humor is not meant, um, to be a great teacher. It's meant to be a good medicine. And so I would leave lighter, refreshed. It wasn't as heavy of a lift. People come to events like this with a little bit different expectation, and so I just started leaning into it about 10 years ago, and I enjoy it. I still do the conferences and retreats, but probably 30-40% of what I do would be on the conference retreat
Yeah.
side, and the rest of it is delivering the fun. And my favorite is when a pastor gets up before I speak and gives the congregation permission to laugh. That's when I know it's going to be an interesting night.
Yeah.
If the church is
Well,
used to it.
Well, and I love that. And, I have left some of your sessions and my face hurt, from laughing so hard. And I can remember years ago, I worked with this woman who worked in wellness. And she said, Julie, when you gut laugh like that, when you are just laughing so hard that you're like crying, it's like taking your body on an internal jog and clearing out the toxins. Like it's just, I mean, you do better relating to people in every way. It's just so good for you. So
Yep.
I love that you're making people laugh, and I want to talk about how do we do more of that in marriage, because I
Yeah.
think a lot of us, we get caught up in career, we get caught up in parenting, or just dealing with all kinds of things. And when it was easy to laugh when we were dating, it's now not so easy. There's bills to pay, and there's
Yeah.
chores to be done, and there's all
Yeah.
kinds of things happening, and who has time to laugh?
Yeah. And that's the marriage principle we all teach is what was natural early on, you need to be intentional with later on.
Yeah.
And I've yet to meet a couple in marriage that would tell me we never laughed when we were dating or engaged. I would make the argument, you will not marry someone you do not laugh with.
True. Yes, I would agree with that. And I want you to repeat what you said a minute ago about before and after. I don't want people to miss that.
Yeah, that it's natural early on, meaning it's like breathing. You enjoy being with someone, they make you laugh. Now, I do know that, in early romantic relationship formation, we put a spotlight on our similarities and the things we have in common, the things we really enjoy, and we downplay the differences. And that's why year 2, 3 into marriage, we're like, okay, we need to probably look at some of these differences and work through them. But you enjoyed one another, you laughed with one another. And now it's just about being intentional later on. And we talk about intentionality with time. We talk about it with physical touch. There's so many factors and skills with marriage that we talk about, but humor, laughter is always left out.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
And this is why I love when a guy comes up to me at an event, and you can see it on just, it's just real serious. And he's like, I'm the serious one in the relationship. I don't ever laugh. And I'm like, you don't ever laugh? I've not met someone that's never laughed. I go, what makes you laugh? Like, what do you find funny? Even if it's, I have a friend that I could watch Nate Bargatze with him, and in an hour, I would get 4. Okay, I'll take it. That's all he's given me. But I'm going to take it, knowing, so you do have a sense of humor. Yeah. You can laugh. So I would say being intentional just means you lean in more to that. But I also want to tell couples, when we talk about humor and laughter in marriage, we're not talking about you becoming a comedian. I'm not talking about you learning to write jokes. We're talking about you looking for the funny, looking for things that make you laugh. Stop trying to be funny and just look for it. And when you look for it, you're going to find it, and you point it out to one another. And when both of you are doing this, you will stumble upon your shared sense of humor at some point. When you find stuff that makes both of you laugh, take note and be more intentional with that.
It's funny. I grew up in a really, really serious home. There really wasn't a lot of laughter in our home. My husband is hilarious.
Yeah.
All the time. And so I found myself learning, I don't have to take myself so seriously, and we can really have fun.
Yeah.
And just loosening up and giving myself permission to even laugh at myself
Yeah.
sometimes has made a world of difference in our marriage.
And that's actually when we say we are looking for someone with a shared sense of humor, which almost every online dating site, it's at the top of the list of every
Yeah.
online dater. I'm looking for
Yeah.
someone with a sense of humor. You're
Right.
not looking for someone who can tell you jokes.
No.
You're looking for someone who knows how to laugh at themselves and invite you in.
Yeah.
And of course, we're talking about appropriate humor. We're talking about appropriate timing. We're
Yeah.
not talking about jabs at one another.
No, no,
We're
no.
talking about shaking our heads going, I can't believe I just said that. I can't believe I just did that. And then those become what comedians call callbacks. The callback is when you take a premise and punchline from earlier in the set and you grab that punchline and you bring it up later off of a new story, a new premise. And it usually gets a bigger laugh because your mind has already heard it, but you didn't see it coming. And that's all laughter is. When you laugh, it's because something shocked your brain
Yes.
and you didn't see it coming. And it's shocking the brain and it's relatable. So this is the old all the great comics of the past, Tim Conway, Carol Burnett, they said familiarity is key to good comedy because if you get too far from the truth, people can't relate to it and they're not going to laugh. But
Yeah.
if you stick close to the truth and shock people with it where they go, oh yeah, that's me too. That's a sense of humor. And every couple can cultivate that.
Yes. I think I'll never forget. We had been married more than 30 years, and we pulled into a parking lot one day, and I, just trying to be helpful, pointed out where there was an empty space.
Yeah.
And Jay whipped his head around to me and he said, I do not need your help finding a parking space. And I was like, wait, what?
What?
We've been married 30 plus years and you are just
I held it in all this time.
This is getting on your nerves. We have laughed about that. I mean, there have been plenty of times where after that episode, we pulled into a parking lot and there was not a single car in the parking lot. And I said, oh my gosh, how will you ever decide where you're going to park? He literally did circles in the parking lot and finally pulled into a spot, and I kept my mouth shut.
Yeah.
And I was very proud of that.
Yeah.
But
so that becomes a callback. That's a callback.
Exactly.
Every time you pull into a parking lot, you can use that.
100%. And we have.
And that's a big one for Amy and I too.
Well, and I think that there are other common things that happen with couples, and we can be really quick to get angry, or we can breathe and think about, okay, is this actually worth getting angry over, or is there anything that could bring any ounce of laughter to this particular situation?
Yeah. And and again, the longer you're married, the easier this should get. Now, not being intentional, like you have to be intentional with it. But now that Amy and I are married almost 30 years, I know what she's thinking. And I know we teach in communication, when you get to the point you can finish your spouse's sentences, don't. But what I do, knowing what she's thinking when something happens on the road, in church, in a store, in a restaurant, when I know what she's thinking, I take on her voice and I share what you've seen that in movies where the guy's just sitting there, but you hear his thoughts. I do that all the time. Nail it 90% of the time. Yeah. And so that's become a callback for us. And she's like, yeah, you knew exactly what I was thinking, almost word for word, what was in her mind. And so that's the blessing of, hey, we've been married for a while. I know you. I'm experiencing the same thing with you, but I'm not just going to share with you what I'm thinking. I'm going to speak out loud your thoughts. And so, Amy, in parking lots, it happens in parking lots all the time. And the way people are driving. I mean, I become, I don't know, ape-like when I'm in the car driving. Like I got to get somewhere. The person in front of me is not cooperating. Amy jokes with me all the time too. I was talking to our school superintendent last night about this. We're identical with this. I go, does something happen in you when you go through a drive-through? He goes, what do you mean? And you could tell he's like, I'm relating to this. I go, my family will start telling me about a block away what they want. And I'll be like, oh, I don't want to hear it until the person asks for what it is. I go, that's too much. I'm not keeping all that information here. And I just, as soon as she asked me, may I take your order? And you got a car full of people. I don't know. I'm high stress. I'm barking. And he goes, me too. And so I think a lot of men relate to that. And Amy then takes that on when we pull into a drive-through. She's like, everybody be quiet until the lady asks. We sit there, the lady asks, and then I just kind of back up, waiting for everybody to speak over me into the box. So it's everyday life. Everyday life, you're going to find stuff that you can laugh about.
Well, and for clarity, you weren't making fun of Amy. You were having fun with Amy.
That's the key. You're inviting that person in. They're inviting you in.
Yes.
And you have to know that dance and to know, I know when she's stressed and I know when. Now, humor still can be used to, work through difficult conversations and to manage stress.
Yes.
Timing and sensitivity are key. Like, I tell people, sometimes after an event, people will come up to Amy and be like, wow, what's it like to be married to him? It's like, well, he wakes up every day. He starts the day with 5 jokes as he's given. That's not how it works at all. Yeah. But that's the key. The sensitivity and the timing. Yeah. Even knowing the weight of the joke at the time or the weight of what you're about to deliver. Just keep it light. And I mean, especially the longer you're married, hey, this is not a good time. And I tell people you have to put some space between the event and the joke.
Yeah.
And you'll figure
it's like too soon. Too soon. You can't go there yet.
Too soon. Yeah. And there are times you might think, I'll give it an hour. And she's thinking, you need to give it a week. We're not going to discuss this.
Right.
For one whole week.
Yeah. Really what I hear you saying is it is important for you to be curious about your spouse. And it is important, like even when you were being playful with Amy at the restaurant and taking on her personality, she really felt seen, loved, and
honored,
valued, and honored. Yeah, not like not like I'm putting you down or being sarcastic with you. And I think that is the dance. Like as you said, it seems like fun comes so easy before you get married. And then after you get married, I mean, it is true that there's a chemical in your brain, the PEA, that kind of goes away at the end of year 2. And people often are just like, what in the world has happened to us? We used to be fun and we used to laugh together and we used to be playful. What happened?
Yeah. And you just said something important a second ago that I always relate to the difference between empathy and sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
Sympathy is, I feel bad for you. I feel bad that you're feeling that. Empathy is, you're hurting. That matters to me. I'm stepping into this with you.
Yes.
And to me, that's what good humor does. If there's a real tense moment with a waiter or a waitress or in a restaurant, something's going on that's awkward, and I take on Amy's personality and I share it from her perspective and she smiled. That's really like what empathy is. That's I am feeling this now. I'm not feeling bad for you. I'm in this moment with you, feeling this with you, expressing what you're feeling. And guess what? I am feeling it too. And that to me is the power. I don't want people's sympathy. And I don't want to sympathize with, I want to be empathetic with them. And humor has a real powerful way of doing that. And the longer you're married, I tell people, take all those little, I call them no big deal moments. We take way too seriously the little things in life that just are non-essential. And instead of allowing that to be conflict, turn it into a callback. Turn it, like you just mentioned with the parking lot. You can take those moments to know when a man and a woman pull into a parking lot, their brains are in 2 different places.
All right.
When a husband and wife pull into a parking lot, the conversation, why would we ruin our whatever experience, restaurant, shopping, whatever it may be, over that interaction? And I can have fun in that moment. I can choose to enjoy that, or I can take myself way too seriously. And so
exactly.
that marital satisfaction is a choice. It's a decision. You're never going to stumble into it. You're not going to discover it. You'll never discover it online. You have to choose it each and every day, and that's what it means to be intentional. And that's why you and I we share the heart for this. That I hate telling couples, marriage is hard work. It's
Oh my gosh.
difficult. It's challenging. I just say, be intentional.
Exactly.
Take everything that was like breathing and dating later on in marriage. Be intentional with it. Prioritize it. And if you'll do that, it won't feel like you're working at it. It'll feel natural again.
Yeah. Yeah. Just kind of not taking your eyes off the prize. And the prize is the journey of doing life together intentionally and figuring out what your dance and your rhythm is together.
Yeah.
And I think there's definitely something to that.
Yeah. And this is why I was telling somebody this the other day about it, kind of similar to the love languages. It's, I need to stop. I can be inspired by another couple, but I need to stop comparing my marriage to another couple.
Oh,
their
such a great
story
point.
can be inspiring. I can learn from them.
Mm-hmm.
But, Amy and I, both of us share physical touch as a foreign love language. Our primary love languages are quality times and words of affirmation.
Yeah.
So physical touch, not. So when you see these couples that are cuddling and holding hands and all, we're not cuddlers. We just don't, it's not who we are.
And it's okay.
That's right. And so
Yeah.
I joke with her every now and then. We're like, we should probably cuddle. It's what couples do when they, and no lie, Julie, we'll get on the couch and we'll cuddle. It will last 2 minutes. And both of us at the same time are like, get off of me. I'm hot.
We're done.
Right. My arm fell asleep. Get off. But there are some couples that thrive on that. I say the same thing with humor. Just find out your dance, how you're wired, use it to manage stress and work through difficult conversations.
Yeah.
But stop comparing yourself to other couples and how their shared sense of humor works for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing, if you don't know who Gary Smalley is, you could Google him and get some really funny recordings that will come up. But that guy, he could get himself into some of the absolute craziest circumstances that made his wife, furious.
Yeah.
And when he's telling the story, one, you're rolling because it's so hilarious. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. And at the same time, he never disrespected Norma, but their personalities were just so different. But he was playful. And I think that that's the takeaway for me, is that it isn't always about the laughter, but the playfulness brings the laughter a lot of times.
Yeah.
When you can learn to be playful together, or even just reminding yourselves, it actually is really important to go take a walk together, go ride bikes, go do something, go take a cooking class, go do something that you haven't done before, because it's the memories and the shared experiences that ultimately bring up the laughter in the future.
And you know how subtle this can be. I don't think I've ever shared this from a stage or on a podcast about Gary.
Bring it on.
Yeah, bring it. And it's so simple, but I want people to see, when you and I are talking about humor, laughter, I don't need a belly laugh every time. I can get a, and that's good enough for me. And Gary, my very first trip with Gary, to speak with Gary, I picked him up at his house. We're driving to the Springfield airport. Norma that week sent an email out to the staff and the speakers that were working with Gary at the time. I don't know what she was dealing with budget at the time, but she said, only park in long-term parking, no short-term parking, right? Which saves what? $2 a day, I think, at the Springfield airport. And so, but I'm a rule follower, and Norma just sent the email. I got Gary in the passenger seat. I'm driving to Springfield. I start to pull into long term. And he goes, so stop. I go, what? He goes, what are you doing? I go, Norma says we have to park in long-term parking. And he goes, no, go to short term. I said, Norma said it. I sat there like blocking traffic, fighting with Gary over long-term or short-term. He grabs the wheel. I mean, he's pulling us into the short term. That was over 20 years ago. And, I think about that literally every time I pull into the Springfield airport. And every trip I took with Gary, I would pause at the lane there and decide which one I was going to take, and he would grab that. And that was simple for us. It brought us. We didn't belly laugh,
Yep.
but all these years later, what a callback for those
Yeah.
moments. I just think couples need to build on that in their marriage and take the little thing. I'll take a smile, I'll take a cackle, and I'll take a belly laugh. Getting a belly laugh from Amy is very difficult. It takes a lot of work, but when I get it, I would say, because I go for her laugh, I get her to laugh every day. I do. It may be subtle. I get the belly laugh probably 3 to 4 times a month, but I got to tell you, Julie, I work for it. I work like a dog for it.
I love that though. I mean, I love that you are in tune and you're paying attention and that there is playfulness. And I think if there was anything that I could say about the early years and building a strong foundation,
Mm,
it would be to learn how to not take yourself so seriously
that's key.
and figuring out the playfulness and not letting go of that, because I do think the grind I think the grind can come in and it can get really stressful,
Yeah.
but it's the laughter and the playfulness that carries you through some of the hardest things I can remember. I mean, Jay, just the sense of humor never leaves him.
Yeah.
And he had brain surgery. And the day after brain surgery, I mean, I'm kind of freaking out because they're saying all these things about he could lose his memory and all that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh dear. But the next morning, he looks at the nurse and he goes, yeah, they were probably singing Wide Open Spaces, when they got in there. And I'm like, of course you said that. And the
That's
nurses
good.
are cracking up.
Yeah.
But it is that kind of thing, though. We do look back and laugh on that now, even though that was a super stressful moment in time for us. The memories are not negative,
Right.
because there was still laughter mixed in, even though I was very stressed.
Yeah. And just a little bit of the pushback that I get on this from time to time. I have to remind people that as Christians, we believe joy and sorrow are travel companions.
Oh, yes.
And so sometimes people will tell me it's not appropriate time to laugh. And again, I get appropriate versus inappropriate, but I always take them to a funeral, because I every single person I know has this story. You've been to a funeral where the grief is heavy.
Yes.
It may have been a sudden loss, unexpected loss, and everyone is in deep grief. And then someone gets up and shares a story about this individual's quirky personality or something they said or did. And in the middle of deep grief, the place erupts in laughter.
Yes.
This is how God wired us. That and
more.
especially for the believer, right? We don't mourn like the rest of men. We mourn with hope. And so I tell folks all the time, I said, humor helps us cope. Like during difficult, don't turn your spouse into the grind ever. If you want to enjoy your marriage in the midst of the grind, learn even in difficult seasons to be intentional with it. It may be lighter, it may be less frequent. I get that. But humor helps us cope. 19th century preacher Henry Ward Beecher said, a person without a sense of humor is like a wagon without springs, jolted by every pebble on the road. Good humor makes all things tolerable.
Oh, I
And
love that.
Yeah, I do think you have to learn and again be sensitive to it. As a pastor, I've had to learn this. I've had elders walk through this with me to be like, Ted, your problem is when you are preaching the Bible and people are convicted of sin, the pastor's heart in you wants to bail them out. Or when someone needs to be challenged, convicted in an area, you want to use humor to soften the blow. And they said, there are times for you to use humor in your sermon, but there are moments when God is working in someone's life that you need to back off. And I've taken that counsel. And I think so many people maybe have seen the humor go wrong because their timing was off or they were inappropriate. Learn from that and continue to be intentional and find, discover, and build your shared sense of humor as a couple.
Absolutely. I think that that's a great point. I mean, if something is said to people in public with your spouse there and it hurts your spouse's feelings, one, you need to say that really hurt my feelings
Yep.
and learn from that
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
to how you would talk about them. There's a big difference in what you might say in public and what you might laugh about in private, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's why, uh, oftentimes my humor, especially in public, is definitely geared more toward me. And even when I'm preaching, if I'm getting ready to tell a joke or something that Amy's not prepared for, she's never heard before, because remember, preaching is different because this is a congregation I'm in front of every week versus
Yes. Yeah.
a shtick that I have when I go other places around the country. There will be
Right.
times I will pause in the middle of preaching and look over to where Amy is sitting and be like, I'm about to share this. You know what I'm talking about? And she'll go, yeah. There have been maybe 10% of the time she'll look at me and go, and I'll be like, yo, I'm sorry I led you down that road. You're not getting the rest of that story. Okay. But I think you can do that if you're at dinner with a couple people. Like, hey, let's tell them about the time. And then if the spouse
100%.
like, no, honey, you blew it
Yeah.
there. And I would just say this, men especially, because I think I've just seen it plenty. When I go golfing with the guys and the way we relate and pick on each other, we are bonded by the end of that round.
Yes.
And I often smile thinking to myself, when Amy goes out with her friends, they are in no way picking on each other relentlessly like we just did during this round of golf. So I do know men and women have a different way
Mhm.
of teasing one another, poking fun of one another, and I have to be real careful to go, okay, when I get home from a round of golf, this is Amy's not one of the boys.
Correct. I think
Yeah.
that's a great point. Like it is different.
Yeah.
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 Okay, so this has been really good. And I try to wrap up each episode by asking what is one practical tip, and you could have two if two come to mind. But what is one practical tip that you would give to couples and say, "Hey, if you do this on the daily, it's
Mhm.
going to be impactful to your marriage in a positive way."
Yeah, mine is a reminder, and it's how I start and end every counseling coaching session that I do with couples.
Okay?
I, as we both do when we meet with couples, we say, what are your goals? I want to make sure our time is, helpful for you, and with the more the solution focused, coaching approach. But
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll say, now let me just share with you. I just want you to keep this in mind with everything that we talk about today. Jesus is your source. Satan is your enemy. Your spouse is your companion.
Oh,
And
so
if you
good.
want to experience high levels of marital satisfaction, never treat your spouse like the source or the enemy. Your spouse is your side by side companion through the grind of life. And if you would understand that, you would realize God, Martin Luther said God could have taken a bone from Adam's head, implying that women would rule over men, or a bone from his foot, implying that men would rule over women. But he took a bone from the side, which
Side.
is equality, mutual respect. God has not given you this person to walk side by side with, to be your, constant, tear you down so they can build you. No, this is your companion through the grind.
Yes.
Your marriage definitely has an enemy. It's not this person. And the one you come to know and rely on, that is God. I open and close every session with that, because I want couples to be reminded everything that we talked about today. You will have the tendency to move towards source or enemy, but keep your spouse in the position of companion every single day when you wake up.
And we ought to just write that out and put it on the mirror,
Yeah.
because seriously, if we
Yeah.
remember that on the day to day, I mean, man, those are good words. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for being with us today. This was absolutely fabulous. Thank you all for listening. To see the books that I talked about on the podcast, we'll have those and other resources along with updates on marriageonthedaily.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate it if you would share it with your friends, because that's how we spread the word. And remember, it's the little things that matter on the daily in your marriage.